Alright, so we finally got some insight on how raids and dungeons will be working going forward into the new content model for Destiny. So let's get into this developer insight. I'll leave a link if you want to go read the full thing yourself. I'm just going to skim over the parts I think are the most important. So we'll start with the brief summary and the TLDR. Every year we'll kick off with a brand new raid as part of the first expansion. The following major update will then expand on this raid, adding new challenges, twists, and rewards. The second expansion each year will deliver a new dungeon with an expanded reward offering, and the fourth and final major update of the year will launch an event that leverages legacy raid and dungeon content along the lines of the Pantheon. So I like the idea of Pantheon coming back. This was an event that everyone enjoyed, and it wasn't just the hardcore community that participated in this. In fact, a lot of streamers and content creators took people who maybe weren't as hardcore through the Pantheon on their way to the Godslayer title, which is still one of the coolest sounding titles in the game. Even though it might not be the rarest, it's still very cool. Now, I'm interested to see what these new challenges, twists, and rewards will be with the following update after the initial release of these raids. We'll have to, of course, wait and see if they are substantial and good enough to bring people back to play the raid once again. Because as we know, with most raids nowadays, you get all the red borders, you craft your weapons, you get your exotic to drop, and then you call it a day for the most part. So again, it'll be interesting to see how this works. Will it kind of be like episodes where each new act you get new weapons that drop, which is also kind of a tease because, you know, that's assumed that they put the best weapons behind the second major update to entice you to come back. That's that would suck. So I just wanted to point this out because I want to kind of like bookmark this and just keep it in your head for the future, because we'll see if this holds true. But this little part here reads: raids will continue to offer a complete pool of exclusive weapons, armor, and exotics, and these can be obtained at higher tiers by taking on additional challenge. I'm guessing something like, you know, master to whatever difficulty slots they put in here. Facing the tall task of following up Salvation's Edge, we are exploring some unique twists on the raid format. This is one area where we will not be giving very much information about in the future, as we don't want to risk spoiling the day one raid experience for the race. So the reason I want to, you know, have people acknowledge this is how different is the format going to be? Because we've been promised changes in formats before. Good example would be from seasons to episodes and how those feel identical. And, you know, I hope this isn't the case with this this promise here, or this goal, so to speak. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see on this one as well. But just, you know, put that in your mind. And if they continue to speak about this promise and it doesn't come to fruition, then we'll simply ask, what happened? Like, why isn't this the case? So next we have raid feats, which is going to shake up the model of challenges. It reads as follows: our current iteration of master raids and challenges have followed a similar format for a few years now, so it's time to change the formula. Starting with codename Apollo, new raids will support a raid-specific form of challenge customization, where players can select modifiers called feats. Feats will expose and enforce rules such as time trials, contest combatants, other mode modifiers unique to the raid. The more feats active during a run, the better chance to earn higher tier rewards. This sounds like skulls from Halo. This also, you know, is what most games have. You can kind of up the difficulty yourself, and the higher difficulty you have, the more rewards you get. I think Borderlands 3 had something similar to this as well. This is interesting, and it seems to be the route that Bungie's taking overall. There was also the customization for strikes, where you have like Expert 1 through 3, Master 1 through 3, where you can go through and meticulously select your challenge level, your difficulty level, to match the type of rewards you're looking for. And I'm interested to see how people react to this, because ultimately it's similar to how things work now. It's just you have like the extremes between master and normal, whereas there isn't really a happy medium in that respect, somewhere in between the two difficulties. And it seems like this feat system could potentially bridge that gap and create one. And that's cool. Maybe there's like an extreme higher than master with this system, which would be awesome. That's what a lot of people want. But the other thing is, does it make it so hard that contest kind of becomes pointless? I don't. That's what Bungie has to manage. You don't want to make it too hard, because then what if you just have diet contests that people will play and enjoy more so than that. But of course, the magic of the raid race in and of itself is something to behold, so I don't think this system will touch that. So this next category, raid challenge updates, this sounds sick, and I hope this does come to fruition. It reads, in the first major update following Codename Apollo, the raid will receive a challenge update, adding new rewards, new mechanics, new feats, and potentially even new encounters. This update will kick off with a raid race event and be a venue for experienced raiders to further their challenge skills. In addition to the highest tiers of the raid rewards being available from these challenges, new and exclusive rewards will be added as well, including new weapons and a catalyst for the raid's exotic weapon. I hope this doesn't come at the sacrifice of making sure the encounters we get initially are good, because in my head I'm thinking, oh, the raid's gonna have 4 encounters. We're gonna get 2 with the initial drop, and then 2 more in this raid race event with the raid challenge update, which is like getting drip fed a raid, and that's not what I want. Or I think that's not what the majority of the community wants. I could be wrong. If the encounters are good enough, maybe it's enough, right? But on the other hand, you're hoping that it's a 6 encounter raid, and you get 4 at release, and maybe 2 more added in this update. This kind of reminds me of raid layers, which only, D2 veterans will remember, or maybe you've heard of them from some players if you only started playing the game, a few years ago or recently. But raid layers were essentially like raid DLCs. We had the Leviathan, then we had Spire of Stars, and we had Eater of Worlds as well, which were all kind of just expanding upon the same aesthetic of Leviathan, but each one had its own special twist. And this, again, sounds a lot like that. I just hope it isn't as lackluster as some of those raid layers were. I think, again, it depends on the quality of the encounters as well as the quality of the rewards. And, it could bring a lot of people back with this update, or it could bring back absolutely no one. So, again, that's the question. We'll have to wait for the answer. Okay, so this is a good thing, and I'm excited for this as far as dungeons go. But we still don't know the pricing on these expansions. So please wait and see how we kind of judge these dungeons before the pricing is released, because these are medium-sized expansions, so one would assume that the price is going to be lower than that of Final Shape. But again, this is Bungie, and they have to make money, especially now because they are just continuing a downward spiral, so to speak. And yeah, anyways, let's talk about new dungeons. Dungeons are an important part of our endgame activity ecosystem. They provide an accessible raid-like experience that feature unique encounters and mechanics that demand less social coordination and scheduling. So, Codename Behemoth, the second expansion of the year, will include a brand new dungeon. Also, because the dungeon will be launching as part of our Codename Behemoth expansion, there will no longer be a separate dungeon key. Additionally, the reward offering for new dungeons will be expanded to include full weapon and armor sets on par with raids. So this last part here is the one that I am most excited about. Not having a separate dungeon key allows you as a content creator and someone who just enjoys the game to be like, hey, you should buy this expansion because it's, you know, good. Let's say it's a good expansion, right? Just for fun. Like I'm hoping it is, but we don't know yet. So let's say, oh, Behemoth, great expansion. You should get it. Not to mention, you get this dungeon as a part of the expansion instead of saying, hey, yeah, the expansion isn't great, don't buy it. Also, the only thing you should get is the dungeon key, because the dungeon's really good, but the rest of it, which is tied to the dungeon, sucks. And that was like the worst thing ever, because Ghost of the Deep went hand in hand with Season of the Deep, and you needed to have both to get the full story experience. But Ghosts of the Deep was just leagues better than any of the seasonal content we got, right? Season of the Deep in general was okay because, you know, the seasonal activity, in my opinion, was fun. And the story beats were okay, right? Too little, too late, kind of, but I don't want to beat the dead horse that is the Lightfall campaign. Either way, I think most people would agree that dungeons are such an integral part of endgame activities, as Bungie stated here, and having them separate from the story itself was a huge L, and this is fixing that. I'm interested to see how different the weapon and armor sets will be. I'm excited for that. I wonder if, you know, on par with raids also means that they will be craftable. I hope not, because one of the nice things about dungeons is that you have to play them over and over again to get the weapons and the weapon rolls that you want, and it's really the one place in the endgame ecosystem where you have to chase these weapons and not necessarily craft them. And as much as that would be nice for the more casual player, you do need to have that balance of chasing crafting. It's fine to have it in the raid, that's great, because you still have to chase the exotic weapon. And, you know, adept weapons are also really good. But there needs to be a line that's drawn, because the crafting portion of weapons is a lot larger right now than the chase, at least in my opinion, right? So hopefully that stays untouched, but it will be nice to see maybe more weapons, and we should be able to enhance these weapons as well, which is cool. You love to see it. First time I think we're going to be able to do that with a dungeon, unless Vesper's Host will probably have that as well, the new dungeon. But yeah. Alright, so last but not least, there's the new rad event. Destiny 2 Into the Light introduced a raid boss rush event called the Pantheon that put Fireteam's capabilities to the test. This event showed us that our community is hungry for new experiences that break out of the mold of our traditional raids and dungeons. So, in the fourth major update of the year, we're planning for another event that introduces novelty and allows our team to experiment with legacy raid and dungeon offerings to create surprising aspirational challenges. We are very early in the design stages of this event, so more details as we develop them. I am all for more Pantheon-esque stuff, and it'd be cool to see how they incorporate dungeon stuff into this Pantheon-like event, or Pantheon 2.0. So I'm all for this kind of stuff. It's nice to have an idea of when the Pantheon is going to be dropping as well, so you know, you don't make any vacation plans for when it happens, because it will be most likely another short limited time event like the Pantheon was, which honestly it wasn't that short. I think it was like 4 weeks or something like that, which is a pretty long time. But again, some people who maybe weren't planning on doing it and then saw how easy, or at least how doable it was, might have regretted not being able to do it. But either way, this time is going to be, I think, much better, because Bungie can build on what they did. Doesn't necessarily mean it will be better, because, you know, it's Bungie. So yeah, that's pretty much it. For the most part, these are some good things. I do think one thing that wasn't mentioned here, or at least I didn't talk about earlier, was the fact that we're only getting one new raid per year. I talked earlier about how the quality of encounters is so important. And if the raid is good and the quality of the encounters is good, then it won't matter if it's just one raid. I know a lot of people are upset that Wrath of the Machine got scrapped and they're not reprising it, and that would have been fun. But I am all for spending the resources they would have on Wrath on newer stuff, as long as the new stuff is good. If it's bad, then yeah, I'm gonna be like, you should have probably done Wrath instead of this raid, or with this raid. But again, well, it's a waiting game with a lot of this stuff, because this is a new format, and we'll have to see if this long time in between releasing raids gives Bungie and the dev team a chance to cultivate raids like Salvation's Edge with Verity specifically. We know that Verity wasn't as complex as it was before the delay, and the delay allowed the raid team to turn Verity into one of the best encounters, or rather the hardest complex encounters in raid history. And that's what made for one of the best, if not the best, raid race ever. And it made sense, because this is supposed to be the hardest raid. It's literally the end of times in the raid, and there should be an encounter that is incredibly hard in the raid. And it does kind of suck that it wasn't the Witness. Like, the Witness was hard on Contest, right? But Verity was understandably harder for different reasons. So, it depends on the quality of this one raid and the quality of this one dungeon, but we'll again have to wait and see how things shake out. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you guys made it this far, I ask only that you subscribe. I know a lot of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. It's easy, it's free. You can click the notifications if you want to watch more videos like this when they drop. And I will see you guys in the next one.